Season 1 of Diablo 4 is regarded as the worst patch in gaming history. From nerfs to classes that totally brick them, to nerfs towards dungeons and overall XP that players can earn. But was this patch really the worst thing in gaming history? Maybe. Maybe not. That's what we're going to talk about today. First thing we need to understand is the player base of Diablo 4. The majority of the community are dads that have 13 kids, 4 dogs, 2 wives, 3 houses, and 4 jobs. They simply don't have time to play for more than 20 minutes a night. They realistically would have never be able to achieve their goal of hitting level 100 on their favorite class, the sorcerer. Between putting the kids to bed, taking the dogs out, paying their bills, and dropping Pop Tarts in the toaster for a sweet snack while they slay monsters, there's simply not enough time for them to do everything they want to within the game with how it's structured. If you don't know, Diablo is an ARPG first and an MMO second, if you even want to call it that. The MMO part is fairly new. Now, in ARPGs, seasons aren't something new. They've been around for a better part of a decade now and aren't going anywhere thanks to the possibility of adding new content to games such as quest lines, classes, skills, and let's not forget the most important part, microtransactions. These seasons typically last roughly 3 months, give or take, and in every new season you have to start completely fresh if you want to engage with all your new content. Well, this is where the issue starts for a lot of the community. A lot of people that have been brought to Diablo 4 simply have never played an ARPG, let alone the Diablo franchise itself, meaning they hadn't known about the idea of seasons, and that their time spent would effectively get wiped and completely forgotten about every 3 months. Now, you might go ahead and say, well, if it's only season that forces you to make a new character, why can't you just continue on non-season? Doesn't that fix all the issues? Well, that's not really the case. In order to interact with any of the new content introduced, you have to play season, otherwise you're missing out on a huge chunk of game. This is where the issue lies with the community, at least the casuals. The 0.1% of the community we like to call pros or enthusiasts typically love the idea of having to restart completely fresh every 3 months. It keeps the game fresh for them and keeps the fire lit for them to keep grinding out and looking for that sweet, sweet loot. So now that we can see the patch mostly affects the casual portion of the community, we can dive a little deeper into the details of the patch itself. Start to really see where all this anger is coming from. Oh, well, I didn't take very long to find it. This patch was very aggressive with its nerfs. Nearly the entire patch itself was nerfs. Most of these nerfs no one ever saw coming. In fact, everyone was expecting buffs to their beloved class or items. A lot of the nerfs actually entirely brick some of the community favorite classes, that being Sorcerer and Barbarian. Sorcerers were already struggling with surviving even the most mild of content in the game, and Barbs were simply overperforming at the beginning and slowly had been getting drip fed nerfs from the start of the game. Only now they got almost completely bricked after this patch, like their friend the Sorcerer. Now remember, we got these notes 2 days before the season actually started, meaning we got all the nerfs, but none of the season theme mechanics to play around with, and which felt like an overall loss to the community, simply enraging them enough to flock to Twitter and Reddit and blow their tops over this patch. Now that we understand why the community was outraged by this patch, we can start to talk about the reasons. Why did the devs do this? What were they thinking? What went wrong here? Well, to be completely honest, this isn't something entirely new to gaming. Most game devs will drop a patch before a new season starts so that when the start date comes around, we can all hop in right away and blast through the content, or like the casuals, slowly drag our feet through the mud and drip feed ourselves the content. The issue does lie within the fact that a lot of the things were drastically changed without letting us engage with the new season mechanics at the same time. I've been playing since the start of season 1 on my new Necromancer. This is Bone Daddy. I've actually been having a blast with my Necromancer and haven't really noticed much of a change to the game. Now that I've gotten a chance to engage with new Malignant Hearts and have been able to play around with them, I found that overall I feel just as powerful as I did before, and that I didn't really lose much power. With this new currency we got, Smoldering Ashes, I found that a lot of the issues we had with the XP nerf kind of aren't as bad. They're still bad, but much less worse than expected. Now, saying this, I'm positive that the devs knew this mechanic would bring a lot of power back to the characters, and the main goal was that classes weren't going to be hitting for hundreds of millions of damage and wiping all the hardest content with no issues. It was meant to give players a new way to craft their builds and enjoy the class they've been enjoying, or even try a new one out and build it in a way that only is ever going to be possible this time around. I think a lot of the outrage for the Season 1 patch comes from the fact that we got it 2 days before being able to engage the new mechanics. That there's potential that the community may have been more outraged than they should have been, reacted quicker than they should have. That's not to say that this patch was good. It wasn't. They still failed to add a ton of new content, and instead of fixing a lot of bad issues, they made them worse. Much, much worse. Well, was this really the worst patch in gaming history? For some, sure. For me, I think it really gave the community a voice it needed in the gaming world. For a long time, game devs simply like to ignore the community and do as they think is fit and make their players suffer, like Call of Duty and what it's become. This patch made the community come together and fully agree on something that they think was done poorly. It made the developers have to respond quickly and made them realize that their player base is the most important set of people that they need to be listening to. They're the ones playing the game on a day to day basis and know what feels terrible and what needs fixing. After all the outrage, the developers vowed to never release a patch like this ever again, that they will take more time to evaluate the effect of their patches and to make sure they're listening to the community more. They're committing to better communication and transparency that the gaming community needed as a whole. For that, I commend the Diablo 4 dev team. I'm still skeptical when it comes to the future of this game, but I'm still going to enjoy it day by day, patch by patch, in hopes that the game becomes the game we were all hoping it was going to be. So, was this patch really the worst patch in gaming history? Well, only time can tell. Promises were made, and now we will simply have to wait and see if promises are kept. But what do you think? What really made this patch the worst for you? Or maybe you didn't think it was that bad. Let me know in the comment section down below. And remember to like and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.